Hi guys, it's Kathy. I hope you're doing well. Time for OJ. September 15th, 1995. Just making sure everything's in order. All right, here we go.
See, we're Friday casual. All right, Miss Clark, you may recall Mr. Bode.
Marks or things that could be imprints but cannot definitely be characterized one way or another.
I was first a little confused by the term imprint that was used so loosely.
That's my fault for thinking that just because I was just streaming a second ago, that I would still just be able to stream without everything just flopping back to no sound. That was my fault.
To describe so many different things. I have no problem with the term imprint because in the area of impression marks, it's a well-known fact that around the world, different terminology is used to describe shoe impressions. For instance, in England and much of Europe, a two-dimensional impression would be a mark. A three-dimensional would be a depressed mark. I like to use the term impression to cover everything because I think it's less confusing, or shoe print. I think the term imprint is probably more of a general term, and so I had a hard time understanding when Dr. Lee pointed to many different things and referred to them all as imprints, exactly what in his mind he was inferring, although he seemed to, when questioned about it, admit that he couldn't say it was a shoe print. So I was a little confused by some of his testimony.
If in fact, Mr. Bodziak, I look at a photograph, I'm a layperson, correct?
Yes.
I look at a photograph and I can't really see imprints. You think you may see something. Under those circumstances, do you think it's appropriate to render an opinion concerning the possibility of the existence of imprints that may have forensic significance?
You might want to make a statement about it, but it should be a qualified statement so that it's understood that there are limitations. Perhaps you can't exclude it as having been made by an object, whether it be a shoe or fabric, but not to infer that it is if there is less than optimal detail.
In other words, if we can't all see it, is it appropriate to say, I as an expert can see maybe there might be something? In other words, if we can't all see it, is it appropriate to characterize it?
Now, if being an expert in an area doesn't give you any better than 20/20 vision, if as an expert you see something, everyone should be able to see that clearly. You should never point to something and say, I can see this, knowing that no one else can see it.
Objection, Your Honor. Move to strike.
Overruled.
Shek is annoyed. I don't know why. It doesn't make a difference. None of this matters. The shoe print or the gene print on anything, does that matter? Does it matter to anything? There's a shoe print on a bloody envelope at the murder scene. Tell me how that matters in any way, shape, or form.
I think it has not previously been marked.
Weeks we spent on it, weeks and weeks and weeks, and now we're back on it.
For the record, Your Honor, I believe this exhibit has previously been marked as People's 598. And
All right, we have a minor problem. Do you want Mr. Bodziak to testify to this? since he can't see it and he's being shielded from the jury?
Yes, what I'd like to do is actually put it in the middle if I can, but it's really heavy.
All right.
It's a magnetic board. There are magnetic overlays on it now. I'm going to remove them for the moment and put them back on.
All right.
Shaq got up to help. Did you see that? Okay. Okay. Thank you, Shaq. Wait. Wait, what do you mean? 2 people died? When? What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. You must be watching a different trial.
All right, Mr. Bozak, you're probably going to have to step down so you can look at this. For the record, at this moment, Your Honor, there are only 2 photographs on this board, one labeled B, one labeled C, that appear to be overalls of the walkway at Bundy.
All right, proceed.
I would like now to attach to this board 2 other overalls. I'm going to ask that they be labeled as part of this exhibit. The first one shows letters E through K. It says, actually, yes, E through K. I ask that this be labeled D.
All right.
All right, so do you recognize that photograph?
Yes, I do.
And what is that of?
This is a photograph of the Bundy walkway. The view is towards the west, and it begins with the 3rd row of tiles that start after you come up the steps at the front gate.
I have another overall photograph that shows letters H through N as, may I have that labeled as E, Your Honor?
Yes.
And do you recognize E, sir?
Yes, I do.
And what is it?
This is also a photograph of the Bundy walkway looking toward the west, and it's taken just a little bit further down the walkway, and it therefore begins with row 7, actually part of row 6 of tiles, row 7, and then row 8, on which H and I are, and then you can see the steps going up to the next tier as you head west down the Bundy walkway.
All right,
Now-
Ms. Clark, Mrs. Robertson, forgive me for interrupting you. Mrs. Robertson indicates that on 598 we already have A through I,
Right, that's the,
so this should be J and K.
okay. What was previously D will be J, what was previously E will be K.
Thank you.
Now, did you place these letter labels on the overall photograph, sir?
Yes, I did.
And what was that based on, that
This,
labeling?
this was based on my previous comparison of the tiles and the Bruno Magli design shoes and the comparisons I made, and the letters that were in the photographs that were taken by the LAPD as they took the photographs at the crime scene of each individual footwear impression.
In these overall photographs, sir, do you see, other than the items you have labeled, well, let me back up. The labels are affixed to what? They're showing what?
The labels, which begin with E, on one photograph they go E, F, G, H, I, J, K. It becomes very hard to see much after that, and so we added this additional photograph, which is a little bit further down the sidewalk, and that continues with H and I, J, K, L, M, and N, and these letters represent the letters that were taken in the photographs of the Bruno Magli shoe impressions.
Would it be more clear if I were to place J lower and place K above it so that it's a continuation of the walkway?
Yes, I think that would be much clearer.
Do you actually see the rear gate of the Bundy location at the top of the photograph that's labeled K?
You see a gate. I don't believe it's the most rear. The most rear is down the next tier and up again and further back, but you do see another gate.
Right.
Yes.
That's not the last gate, though.
No, ma'am.
Speaking of the most rear, where's Bobby? Bobby!
Now, so the items that are labeled with letters, those were all the Bruno Magli shoe prints that you found?
They were some of them. There were many others, but these were some of them with those respective letters.
Other than the Bruno Magli shoe prints, some of which you have labeled in letters on these overalls, did you see anything else recognizable as a shoe print on the Bundy walkway?
And these,
Sustain foundation.
He could be getting coffee. Hi,
looking at
Walter.
these two photographs, I could not see any other footwear impressions in these photographs other than what I have already marked here with the letters and have previously examined to testify to.
Now, are you aware that the date on which these pictures were taken, these overalls, was June the 13th?
Yes, ma'am.
You can resume your seat for a moment, sir. Now, photographs that you examined, sir, were they original photographs developed from the negative?
They were first-generation photographs from the negative, yes.
Did you hear Dr. Lee's testimony that the photographs he examined were second generation, that is, a photograph of a photograph?
Yep.
Sustain.
In some instances, did you hear Dr. Lee's testimony with respect to some of the Bundy walkway photographs, that what he examined were photographs of photographs?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
What is your opinion of the practice of forming an opinion based on the appearance of a photograph of a photograph?
Objection. Based on discovery.
Overruled.
In some instances, you could reach a conclusion with a photograph of a photograph, particularly eliminations. If there was a design, even though the photograph were poor, that the design was definitely a different design, you could still see that. You could reach an opinion. You might also be able to reach certain qualified opinions, but using a second-generation photograph is generally not what you strive to do in your examinations, because there always is the possibility that the original full-framed picture from the original negatives contains much more information. It might even contain other areas that you don't see on a copy of that first photograph. So as a general rule, it's dangerous to work with that kind of material. It's limited.
Now, you are aware that the people provided the defense with
Objection,
original...
Your Honor. Ask for sidebar.
No, sit down.
Sit down and shut up.
Argumentative, counsel.
Have you spoken with Mr. Scheck at some length, sir, prior to your testimony today?
Yes, I have.
And have you gone over photographs with him, sir?
Yes, I have.
And have you seen original, that is, first-generation photographs in the possession of Mr. Scheck?
Most of the photographs that we went over were photographs that I generated or the LAPD had generated from the original negatives.
And did you discuss with him the providing to Mr. Lee of second-generation photographs in lieu of original photographs?
I don't recall any specific discussion about that. There may have been a reference to it, but I don't recall it as a discussion.
Let me put it to you this way, sir. If the prosecution had sent to you photographs of photographs, second-generation photographs, and asked for you to render an opinion characterizing or forming a conclusion based on those photographs, would you do so?
Your Honor, objection. Ask to approach.
Overruled.
That happens quite frequently because a lot of departments don't want to give up their original photographs or negatives, and I pick up the phone and call them and explain to them for various reasons why I have to have the best evidence. And I usually won't do the examination, even a qualified one, if I don't have that.
He better be careful. He is dangerously close to theatrics over there, shaking his head and sighing and scribbling. You can't do that. Very unprofessional. We can do that, but we feel no need right now, because this doesn't matter. Oh, how mad would Ito be if this cameraman accidentally got a picture? Oh.
Labeled as Defendants 1337. Have you previously examined this board, sir?
I can't see a mass step down.
Please.
Yes, I have.
I first want to direct your attention to the photograph on the lower left-hand side. It's labeled as, walkway 612 to 13, 1994. Have you looked at that photograph before, sir?
Yes, I have.
And perhaps we could put that one photograph on the Elmo. And that's People's 45I.
Appears to be oriented differently than the Ms. Martinez. I think we need to turn it upside down. Thank you.
until we get that, let me ask you a couple questions, sir. First of all, you recall Dr. Lee's testimony, sir, that there were lines in this area that I'm pointing to here, and for the record I'm pointing to as you face it, to the right of the grouting, that appeared to him to possibly be an imprint.
Yes, I do.
Objection, this state's testimony.
Overruled.
I don't know if there's video
Since
of
that time,
that.
sir, have you gone back to the Bundy walkway to examine that particular tile?
Yes, I have.
We need Bundy. And when you went back to look at that, good, we have the photograph, and that's people's what? Showing you people's 45i on the Elmo, sir. If you could, explain to the jury and use the laser pointer.
OJ was the very sort of first televised, recorded trial. So everything that happened before that, there's no real like video of the trials. I don't know why. I mean, FBI vault. It doesn't, even the FBI vault, it doesn't look like there's video. No, it's just papers. So anything we do, it would have to be more recent. Okay, it was televised, but I can't use that content. If I tried to live stream a television show, I would get my whole channel would be gone because it's copyrighted. This right here, you see the CONUS video? This person that I put the link to this site, to this YouTube channel in every description. They paid this site, CONUS Video, for this trial. That's why they put it on YouTube.
Circle the area that we're talking about.
Yes, the area that you're referring to, that I went back and examined, is this area in here. And within that area, there are some parallel lines,
Hi, Naomi.
which I'm following with the laser pointer.
Now, first of all, sir, before you ever testified, did you go to Bundy and locate the exact location of where each shoe print that had been photographed was?
Yes, I did.
And did you create a map showing the location of each shoe print in your notes?
Yes, I did.
And those notes that you made, they were made before you testified here for the first time?
Yes, they were.
And you turned them over to the defense back then, did you not?
Yes.
Did Dr. Lee ever call and ask you where, on which tile each shoe print was located?
No, I never had any contact with Dr. Lee about any facets of this case.
When you testified previously, sir, did you indicate and specify exactly where each shoe print was on the walkway?
Yes, I did.
Now, since your testimony, you've indicated that you went back to Bundy to locate that precise tile shown in People's 45i again.
Yes, ma'am.
And can you tell us how you were able to do that, sir?
It was very easy. I knew exactly where that imprint was since I had already been to the Bundy scene and had mapped each of these by the letters and by the photograph numbers and in order to create the long Bundy chart which we used during my original testimony. So I already knew exactly which tile to go to. And even though the impression is no longer there, and the impression of blood is no longer there, the many imperfections in the tile and the grouting make it easy to confirm that I was looking at the exact tile.
So by various distinctive defects in the tile that were innate to the tile, you were able to locate each shoe print?
Yes, ma'am.
I have a new board, Your Honor. I'd ask you to mark people's next in order. Is it 623?
623, yes.
For the record, it is entitled Bundy Walk Photos. Sir, when you went
All right,
back...
are these just footprints?
Yes, well, they're all walkway markings on the walkway. I should describe for the record. Thank you, Your Honor. This board contains 8 photographs. In the lower right corners are 2 photographs put together because they are part of one tile, a continuous part of the tiling, and they have numbers 15 and 19 on them. In the lower left-hand corner is a photograph in black and white with 2 rulers that seems to show an imprint in cement. Above that is another black and white photograph with two rulers. Above that is a color photograph with what appears to be a shoe print and two rulers. In the middle is an overall photograph with what appears to be, it's a color photograph with what appears to be white labels in it. To the right of that is a black and white photograph with two rulers, next to which is a color photograph with a tape measure in it.
Thank you.
All right, so directing your attention specifically now to the photograph that I'm going to start labeling them, Your Honor, for the record. The upper photograph labeled color photograph with the shoe print A and the black and white below it B. Directing your attention to photograph B, sir. That appears to be a black and white photograph.
It is a black and white photograph.
Can you tell us when that photograph was taken?
That particular photograph, I didn't take, to the best of my knowledge, I believe it was September 1st, 1995.
1995.
Yes.
And did you direct that it be taken black and white like this?
I gave general directions to how to take the photographs of the tile using an oblique light source and the camera on a tripod and a scale and everything in the photograph.
Can you explain to us what you mean exactly by oblique light source?
Yes, oblique light is when the light skims the surface as opposed to light just coming down from overhead as it would if you were to walk outside or in a room such as this where the lighting is coming from overhead. And when the light comes from overhead, it is very even and does not give you a lot of contrast regarding surface detail. If you were to turn these lights off and bring a bright light in here and skim the surface of different objects, you would see the texture, the carpeting texture, shoe prints that might be depressed, other tool marks or marks on objects. You would see them much better because the low light would be creating shadows in the low areas of these uneven things and would highlight the upper areas, and it would give you better contrast. So you would be able to, by skimming the light along the surface, see those defects much better in the walkway.
Okay, so does the oblique lighting create new features that were not there?
It doesn't create features. It enables you to see them much better than you might be able to see with the photographs taken with other lighting sources.
Now, what was the purpose in this particular case of asking that these black and white photographs be taken with oblique lighting in September of 1995?
After Dr. Lee's testimony regarding this particular imprint, which is the original photograph of which is depicted in photograph A on this board, in order to obtain a picture that shows more clearly that mark, I directed them to take this different type of photograph.
Now, the parallel lines that appear in People's 45I and on the defendant's exhibit 1337 that you've circled with the laser light, can you tell us whether you were able to locate that particular tile, that location, on the Bundy walkway after Dr. Lee's testimony?
Yes, that was the edge, this particular edge here, and this photograph A on this board is the same as the area I just circled. This edge is the border between the second and third row of tiles, and it is in the area of the impression, this particular impression, which we labeled E on the original, the Bruno Mali design and the original Bundy walkway board.
Okay. And for the record, Your Honor, I placed labels A and B. Now, directing your attention to photograph B, the photograph taken September of 1995. Can you tell us, sir, whether that is the exact location depicted in photograph A, which was taken on June 13th, 1994?
Yes, it is. The grout line, which is running up and down this, corresponds with this grout line, and this tile to the right of the photograph, or on the right side of the photograph, B as you face it, corresponds with the heel portion, or the part of the tile on the heel area, which is actually the second row of tiles on the photograph A.
Now, the parallel lines that were testified to by Dr. Lee, do you see them in the photograph taken in September of 1995, labeled on this exhibit as B?
Yes, the same lines are right in this area, and they are the same lines that you can still see it in photograph A as you can up when I pointed it to the laser, but you can see it much more clearly in photograph B.
Then, with respect to the parallel lines that were pointed out during Dr. Lee's testimony in photograph A and what's shown on the screen in People's 45I, in your opinion, sir, is that an imprint?
You see,
No, it's
I
not an
can't.
imprint nor is it a shoe print.
What is it?
I cannot show ABC News on here. It's a violation. It's a copyright violation. That they'll demonetize me. I know other people do it. I know. I hear you. But I've been demonetized. I've actually been demonetized. So I can't. However, I might be able to get it through the Florida State Archives. Not everything. Utah, I can't get the trial that was in Utah. Can't. What's the other one? Colorado, was it? I can't get that. Hold on, let me think. I can't, it was Utah. I think it was Colorado. And it doesn't matter, actually. I can't get those. But when he is pro se in Florida, Florida has really wide open records. It's just not technically easy to sort through and get. But I think I can get it. It is. They probably got it from the same place that I'm looking for. But I can't take theirs. I can't show theirs. I'll get in trouble. I've gotten in trouble before.
It's a result of the finishing of the concrete tiles. Much of the discussion, including my own, of the Bundy walkway has referred to the individual squares as tiles. In fact, they are not actually tiles in the sense that they could be picked up maybe an inch or a quarter inch thick and it would be laid down and filled in with concrete. On the other hand, they are actually poured concrete and they are grouted to make it look like individual tiles. So this was actually a walkway that was poured with concrete, and certain tools were used to finish that concrete, just as it would have been if it had been a plain concrete walkway.
So when you were there, did you notice many marks and defects inherent in the concrete itself?
Yes, I did.
I'm going to place the label C on the photograph that appears to have what looks like a shoe print in the cement and ask you if you had seen that particular feature, sir.
Yes. In this particular photograph, which is on the second tier, the seventh row of tiles, there was actually almost an entire well-defined shoe print of a left shoe that was made by stepping in the concrete tile before it was dried. And it was there since the day this tile was poured, and I imagine it will always be there.
Is it a Bruno Mali shoe, sir?
No, it's not.
All right, directing your attention to the photographs to the right of that, and I'm going to place the label D above. Describe to the jury what is shown in this photograph.
This photograph is, looking at it from the left, the two photographs which I had taken on Thursday this week, Wednesday, and they are depicting the edges of the tile between tiles 11 and 12 and 12 and 13 on the first tier, and west would be in the direction to your right as you look at D. So the crime scene would be on your side, and as you walk away would be going down the walkway. And this was taken to just show how on many of these tiles, these same types of marks from finishing the concrete were present. And these are the same type of tool marks used by the concrete workers, as you do see in B and A, and they were previously referred to as a imprint. And in fact, they are actually tool marks from the finishing of the concrete.
And so it's clear, sir, B, C, and D were all taken in September of 1995
Yes, ma'am.
with oblique lighting.
Yes, ma'am.
Directing your attention to the color photograph above D, which I'm going to place. This label is E. I'm placing the label on there. Can you tell us, first of all, have you seen this photograph before?
Yes, I have.
Did you direct that it be taken?
Yes, I did.
And when was it taken, sir?
In September 1995.
And what was the purpose for having this photograph taken?
After I went out to the Bundy walkway to document the various shoe impressions in concrete and marks and imperfections in the various tiles that were a result of the concrete work. As you can see on the bottom edge of B and also in two spots on D, there are some labels, and you can see these labels down the walkway. And these just is a general scene photograph, just to give it a reference point to show where some of these pictures were taken.
Now, this is pointing in which direction?
This is facing. This is actually facing back toward the east. So the victims were down at the top of the photograph, and as you come down the photograph, you're actually heading west.
Okay. So as you go from the bottom of the photograph to the top, you're going towards Bundy.
Toward Bundy, yes, ma'am.
All right. Now, those markers, you say, indicate defects that exist in the tile?
Well, every tile had many finishing marks from trowels, and I mean that's normal on concrete. And you can see, if you were to look on D, you can see many different lines and scratches and things which will cause shadows and which will appear as various shapes and marks. Even next to the shoe print, you can see another line here. You can see some trowel marks along the edges of these tiles. You can see indentations here. When you use the oblique light source, it shows these up very well, and every tile along the walkway had it, and it's normal for this type of concrete finishing to have those marks. It's impossible not to have it.
And did you hear Dr. Lee testify when looking at one of the overall shots, a perspective shot looking from Bundy towards the back of the location that was taken on June the 13th, that he thought he could see possibly other imprints?
Yes, I did.
And
Objection.
based on what you saw,
State's testimony.
Overruled.
based on what you saw in the defects in the tiles that you've testified to, sir, do you have an opinion with respect to those possible other imprints that Dr. Lee testified to?
Objection calls for speculation.
That's vague.
Given the defects in the tiles to which you have testified, sir, if you look, take a long shot, a perspective shot of the overall Bundy walkway, could those defects create the appearance of imprints that are not in fact?
Objection calls for speculation.
Sustain. Rephrase the question.
Based on what you saw at the Bundy walkway, sir, the defects that you've testified to, did that create an appearance of imprints when you examined them that were not in fact imprints?
When you look at the general scene photographs that we took that were taken on June 13th of the walkway looking in a westerly direction that I believe are on the board behind this one.
Why don't I take this down and look at that? And this was a board marked as 598.
When you look at these photographs, which are marked B and C, and the ones on which I put the letters from E through M or N, you can see, because of the imperfections in the walkway as well as the unevenness of the color and various stains and weathering of those concrete tiles since the walkway was put there, which is all normal. You can see various lighter or darker areas or imperfections, and it's impossible to tell what they are. So in that very loose sense, you could look at it if I were asked, or anyone, including Dr. Lee, to look at this and say, you see these various dark, splotchy areas and different imperfections. Can you exclude the possibility that there are other footwear impressions? Of course you couldn't, but these are, from my inspection of the scene, and these photographs, there is nothing that you can look at that, in my opinion, looks like a shoe impression, other than the ones that I previously testified to,
Which were?
which were the Bruno Mali design.
Now I'm going to direct your attention, sir, back to Table 623. The upper, let me label the remaining photographs while I'm at it. The black and white photograph next to E is with F, and the color photograph next to that is G. And I put the labels on them.
Thank you.
Directing your attention, sir, to photograph G on People 623. That is a photograph testified to by Dr. Lee during the course of his testimony. Do you recall that, sir?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
And that is a photograph taken by him on June 25th, 2 weeks after the murders, 1994.
That's my understanding from his testimony, yes.
First, Your Honor.
All right, is that particular one mark we have?
I'm sorry?
All right, I think that G is actually their copy of 1337B, which is also the middle photograph on the recorded Bundy, and I'd suggest we use those instead of another copy of the copy.
Counsel can use their own exhibits, counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Directing your attention, sir, to 1337. Do you see the photograph on the board that's labeled as Walkway
Judge,
62592?
Judge,
Yes, I do.
And I'm showing you now.
Judge, that wasn't okay. He can't tell them what to do. Overruling or sustaining is not okay when he does that. Sanctions.
Defendant's 1337B, sir. Can you tell us if that appears to be the same photograph as shown that on 1337 that I just indicated?
Yes, it is.
And is that the same photograph that's shown on the People's Exhibit 623 is labeled G?
Yes, it is. This actually includes a larger area, but it shows the same content. So they both center on the same tile and reveal the same information.
Thank you. I'm going to put that 1337B on the easel. All right, first let me direct your attention to the area in this photograph to the left in the tile. And by that I mean, sir, this, what appears to be kind of wavy lines here and a few other lines above it. And for the record, I'm indicating lines to the left of what appears to be a heel print.
This appears to be approximately on the tape measure, the area to the right of the inch marking 9.
Can you show the jury more specifically what I pointed out?
In this particular photograph?
Yes, sir.
Or all of them?
All of them?
Okay. Looking first at G, there is a wavy line pattern that is evident.
Okay, I just sent a request to the state of Florida for the Ted Bundy files. At 7 a.m. on a Thursday.
Next to the bloody Bruno Mali heel print, which I previously testified to, that is also depicted in, this is
1337B.
1337B. If I could turn it this way to orientate the same, this would be, in this area here, there's a wavy print. I don't know if that can be
Hi,
seen
Richard.
by everyone, but it is in this area here. It's also in this area here, which is the same photograph next to the bloody Bruno Mali heel print, and a wavy pattern is over here in this area.
Yeah, perhaps I could pass this photograph to the jury so this is pretty faint stuff.
Fine detail. Which do you want to pass?
I'll pass the defense photograph if I may.
All right, that's 1337.
See, if I can get this will be really good. Really, really good.
And what appears to be kind of a wavy pattern to the left as you
But
face it.
I thought that about OJ too. I was wrong. There's a little boy. Is that a little boy? Right there behind the white hat. There's a tiny little boy in the courtroom for a murder trial. It's hundreds of dollars. It would be hundreds of dollars. My best guesstimate, $400, $500. Listen, not worth it. I make like 30 cents for every OJ stream. 30 cents. So, not worth it. At least it doesn't look like there's any sidebars. Voila. I don't know, unless this goes on for a while. Hold on. Let me find the...
All right, Ms. Clark, would you retrieve 1337 from
Never mind,
Deputy
he's
Long?
back.
All right, sir. Now, do you recall Dr. Lee's testimony in which he testified and characterized this area as a possible shoe print?
Yes, I do.
Objection.
Did you go back and locate?
This state's testimony.
Overruled.
Did you go back and locate this
Actually,
very?
I'm sorry. Sustain. Rephrase the question.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Do you recall Dr. Lee's testimony in which he identified this area as as an imprint?
Yes, I do.
And did you go back and locate that exact location and that exact tile on Bundy after his testimony?
Yes, I did.
And is there a photograph that depicts that location of that exact tile on this board, People 623?
A general photograph or a close-up?
A close-up, sir.
Close-up, yes, there is.
And which one is that?
That is F.
Now, in that photograph, you caused that photograph to be taken, is that correct?
Yes, it's upside down as it's mounted here. It might be confusing, but it's the same area.
Is that on with double stick tape? Hank.
Is it possible to reorient that, Ms. Clark?
That's exactly what I was asking. It's on the tape. Yes. Would this be correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, for the record, I have turned F right side up. How are you able to locate, again, the exact tile that is depicted in Defendant's 1337B?
Well, that's first looking at this particular photograph with the bloody Bruno Mali print, which is right next to it, which was imprint number I, or letter I, on the walkway. It was on the 8th tile. And then going to the Bundy scene in September 95, through the imperfections in the tile, reconfirming that that in fact is the tile in question, and then making oblique-like photographs showing the wavy line impression on that tile.
Now, the photograph that is labeled as F on People 623 was taken in September of 1995.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you see the same features characterized by Dr. Lee as an imprint that still existed in the tile in September of 1995?
Yes, I did.
Can you explain that, sir?
This wavy-lined imprint referred to by Dr. Lee is in fact another impression in concrete that was there when the walkway was poured, and which is still there and will probably be there as long as the walkway.
If I may, Your Honor, rather than ask that the jury pass by and look, if we could just hold the board closer and let Mr. Boziak point that out.
All right. I'm sorry?
Objection, Your Honor, this
May we
objection is...
approach so I can explain?
All right,
Just
with
for a
court reporter,
second.
please.
Oh, but I just checked for a sidebar. So what, are they just going to leave the camera on here? It looks like there's... Okay, this is a real short sidebar. Oh, he's just... Alright. I guess we gotta sit through it, because I don't know where it ends. No, we don't.
Thank
There
you,
we go.
counsel. Ms. Clark.
Thank you, Your Honor. For the record, Your Honor, Mr. Wood, just... For the record, Your Honor, we are moving People 623 closer to the jury, so we don't have to get up and look. I'm directing your attention, Mr. Boziak. Can you get over to the side there? Thank you, sir. To photograph F. And if you would, sir, demonstrate to the jury what you see in photograph F that you identify as the same items you found in September of 95, to which Dr. Lee testified was a shoe print, or a possible shoe print found in his photograph on June 25th.
Sustain rephrase the
Of
question.
imprint.
Yes, looking at F, which is what I have the laser pointer on now, there is this wavy pattern which is actually permanent depressions in the concrete that would have had to have been made when the concrete was still wet in the finishing process. And there are this, as well as many other footwear impressions in concrete, one of which is depicted in C. And that is the same mark or impression or imprint, or however you want to characterize it, as is depicted in the defense exhibit that Dr. Lee testified to, which is next to the bloody Bruno Mali heel print.
Does that move down and show the other end of the jury?
Based on that testimony, you might take the sidebar.
Noted.
You just
Overruled.
said that's why it's shoe pressure.
Overruled.
Okay, pointing again to the photograph F, which was taken in September of 95, there is a wavy pattern. This is a shoe print made in the finishing process of the concrete before it was dry. It's permanent, and it is also depicted, it was testified to by Dr. Lee as an imprint in the photograph, which is part of the defense exhibit to which I'm now pointing. This is the same exact impression on the same tile that was next to the bloody Bruno Mali heel print. And this is the 8th tile on the Bundy walkway, and this Bruno Mali heel print was letter I, which I previously testified to.
Thank you, sir. All right, so now I'd like to direct your attention to Defendant's 1337A. I don't know if that's depicted on 1337. Is that the last photograph? All right. And Mr. Sheck indicates to me that this photograph that is enlarged as Defendant's 1337A is depicted on the board 1337, labeled as walkway 62594, far to the farthermost right as you face this board. Have you seen these photographs before, sir?
Yes, ma'am, I have.
And do you recall that it was Dr. Lee's testimony that he detected this, what he characterized as a shoe print, on June 25th, 2 weeks after the murders, 1994?
Objection, mischaracterizes.
Sustained.
Made in blood.
Proceed.
Okay, do you recall his testimony concerning this particular photograph, 1337A?
Yes, I do.
Now, sir, are you aware that the crime scene was broken down at Bundy at 3 p.m. on June the 13th, 1994?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you also aware, sir, that people were walking through that crime scene after it was broken down at 3 p.m. on June 13th?
Yes, I am.
Directing your attention to People's Board 598, the color photographs that are labeled B, C, and then the two color photographs next to that. You've seen these photographs before, sir, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, in your visits to Bundy, were you able to locate the exact tile on which Dr. Lee testified he found this print depicted in Defendant's 1337A?
Yes, I was.
And how were you able to do that?
Through the imperfections in the tile, first going by his testimony as to where approximately it was, and then looking at the various tiles, the cracks and imperfections in them, which are unique to each of the square pieces of concrete, and confirming that that impression or that imprint in the defense exhibit was from the 10th row of tiles. As you face the photographs of this board, in the 10th row, it would be the second tile to the right, and on the top corner of each of those is the letter K and J, so it's right below that. 10th row, the second tile, I guess on the north side, second in from the north side.
Now, in the photograph that you're pointing to, which is the lower unlabeled colored photograph, where you have labels in the photograph, can you see actual actual shoe prints next to those labels?
Yes, E and F, G, H, I, J, and K are all bloody Bruno Mali shoe prints, which I previously testified to.
And the tile that you've indicated you located, which is where Dr. Lee testified to seeing an imprint 2 weeks later, you said that was located between K and J here in the 10th row tile?
It's right in between, or surrounded by, K and J on the west side, just inches away, and to the east side, H and I.
Now, sir,
Well,
do you see
Naomi,
that photograph?
I get it. I didn't get it until recently, till what we saw recently during the trial. And so there was an officer, Mark Furman, on the scene. He found the glove. He found a lot of the key pieces of evidence. He is a raging racist, and has bragged in these interviews with this one screenwriter how he has planted evidence. He has pulled people over and ripped up their driver's license and then ticketed them for not having a driver's license, and it was bad. The tapes they had for his interviews were so damning. I mean, he blatantly is corrupt and would absolutely have planted evidence. And his testimony was enough to blow this case completely on its side. Up until that moment, I could not understand how the jury decided what they decided. I mean, we watched this trial for months together. We started in December of 2024, watching this here on YouTube. It wasn't until December, I think. Was it December, guys? I think. It was like the last 2 days of December that we played the Furman tapes. And it was absolutely enough in my mind to get to reasonable doubt.
Do you see anything indicative of a shoe print in the area where
I
Dr.
believe
Lee
both are
testified
true.
he found one?
I believe OJ did it. Absolutely. Those are his shoe prints. We are looking at his shoe prints in blood. We saw them matched to the shoes. We saw the hairs and the fibers from Ron and Nicole in the Bronco. Now, again, it's very possible Furman planted those. Not probable, but beyond a reasonable doubt, yeah, he could have. Not those shoe prints. He didn't plant those shoe prints. So I believe both are true. I believe O.J. Simpson definitely did this. And I believe that Mark Furman may have planted that glove, because that glove doesn't make any sense.
On June 25th. Do you see the imprint shown in Dr. Lee's June 25th photograph in the location where it was in the June 13th photograph?
We identified precisely which photograph that is. I'm not sure it's.
Yes. Question's vague. Reference to which photograph we're talking about, Counsel.
Okay. The lower overall photograph to which you've been testifying, sir. Do you see the imprint on...
I think we need a more precise one. These are the magnetic boards that are coming on and off. You're going to probably need to identify them.
I think you're referring to J, is that correct?
Jay. I think it's Jay.
J. Photograph J. Photograph 620, 598J, is that what you're referring to?
Ah, yes. I forgot we gave you a mistake.
You're welcome.
It was JD.
No, I think it's K, actually.
It's K. It's K. It's the second one.
Second one, K.
I think D was J.
Mrs. Robertson says K.
I am.
See, that's why we're supposed to mark these things.
I know. Well, this happened last night, brother. I apologize.
I think the upper one, we made DJ and EK, and the upper one is J and the lower one is K.
K. I said
And he was
K.
pointing
No,
to K.
wait a minute.
I said
Wait,
K.
wait, wait. The lower one was with the earlier letters, and I think that was J.
The jury says you're right.
Yes, am I right?
Okay, just switch them.
All right.
I'm gonna put a J here. It's not worth it. And the upper photograph is K.
Fine.
All right.
Let's proceed.
Okay. Now you're referring to photograph J.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Now that photograph is taken on June the 13th, correct?
Yes.
The photograph that Dr. Lee referred to in 1337A was taken on June the 25th, 2 weeks later, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
The location of this imprint that he testified to from the photograph taken on June 25th, you indicated earlier would be between K and J, where I'm indicating in the 10th row of tile.
Below the letters K and J on chart J, that is in the 10th row of tiles.
Do you see any imprint in that location, sir, in the photograph taken on June the 13th?
No, in looking at photograph J, as well as the same respective area in photograph K, which represent a closer view of that tile, and in looking very closely, I cannot see any evidence or indication of this particular impression at that point.
Now, were there direct blow-up photographs taken? Let me rephrase that. Were there close-up photographs taken of each of the shoe prints you have labeled in H, I, J, and K that would surround the imprint seen on June 25th by Dr. Lee?
Yes, there were.
And what is your opinion of the quality of the photography done by LAPD with respect to the shoe prints on the Bundy walkway?
The photography of these impressions, which were taken with both black and white photography, are excellent. An example of those is in the Bundy Walk photo chart labeled A, and they were taken with a tripod with the correct lighting, and they depicted very accurately with a scale very minute details of those impressions and the tile area around those impressions.
Now, then, given the fact that close-up photographs were taken of all of the shoe prints surrounding that tile, what is your opinion, if any, as to whether the imprint identified by Dr. Lee that he found on June the 25th was actually even there on June the 13th?
Protection Foundation.
Based on my observation and examination of these photographs, J and K, as well as the fact that H, I, K, and J and K were photographed meticulously by the LAPD on June 13th, and the fact that if there...
It wasn't just Mark Furman, though. The prosecution's case was horrific. They spent months and months and months and months and months doing this. This is what they did for over a year that we watched. We watched from December to now January. And if none of it had anything to do with the murders, how fibers were made, how shoes are made, dogs barking, ice cream melting, nothing to do with the murders. There was very, very little evidence of the murders in this whole trial. It was just all forensics and DNA and EDTA, and if they could have just was their DNA found in the Bronco? Oh yes, but no, they put on expert after expert after expert after expert, and they all said the same things, sort of, and then some of them argued with each other, but it wasn't about it was about stupid stuff, and the jury just lost all that time from their lives, and they're just getting angrier and angrier at the prosecution for doing what they did.
There were another impression right next to them that also would have been photographed. I'm of the opinion that that imprint that Dr. Lee referred to on the defense exhibit was not there at that time, or it would have been photographed.
Objection. Move to strike.
Stricken.
Speculation.
Stricken.
Do you see any other imprints like that shown in 1337A near the tile where this imprint was located?
Are we referring now to photographs? What he sees in photographs?
Yes.
On the
Which
June
photograph?
13th photograph, sir, did you see any other imprints like that shown in Dr. Lee's June 25th photograph near the tile where you located it?
I've seen no other imprints like the parallel line imprints on Dr. Lee's the defense exhibit. I'm sorry, I keep forgetting the number, 1337A. I've seen no other imprints or shoe prints having this design on any of the other photographs that were taken by the LAPD on June 13th, or in any of the general crime scene photographs, such as J and K. None whatsoever.
Now, the parallel lines that you see in this imprint, in the photograph marked as defendant's 1337A, are these consistent with the parallel lines that you saw on the envelope and the piece of paper at the Bundy crime scene?
No, they're totally different in size and characteristics.
And on the jeans, are they consistent with any of the parallel lines testified to on the jeans?
No, they are the lines on the jeans are parallel lines, but they're much broader lines. If we can hold this up
Sure.
again. The lines
I'm going
on
to
here
drive
are
my
very,
daughter to
very
work,
thin
guys.
lines.
I'll be back in a
Even
few
though they're
minutes.
both parallel lines,
Behave, Bobby.
there's a lot of different types of parallel line designs on shoes, and these are very, very narrow. The ones on the jeans, if you were to accept hypothetically that they were made by a shoe, they would not be the same as these.
So these parallel lines that you see here are not consistent with the parallel lines on the envelope, the paper, or the jeans?
No, ma'am.
Now, I'd like to direct your attention, sir, to, I think it's photograph G on People's 623, on People's 623. And is that, do you see this photograph duplicated on the defendant's board 1337, sir?
Yes, it's at the bottom center. The bottom center photograph is labeled walkway 62594.
Now, there's an area that's in the corner of that photograph to which Dr. Lee directed some testimony. Do you recall that, sir?
Yes, I do.
Could you locate for the jury the area to which he directed his testimony that we're now referring to?
We're now referring, I believe you're asking me to point to this corner of the tile, which would be to the right of the bloody Bruno Lally heel print, and actually bordered in the corner by the grout lines. It would be, another way to describe it would be above the numbers 8 and 9 on the ruler.
And can you locate for us that area on People 623, please?
Yes, that area is located in photograph G at the very top, again between the grout lines, or bordered by the grout lines, and in this particular photograph, the way it's oriented, above the bloody Bruno Lally heel print.
All right, now are there some features of that particular corner that could be a shoe print, sir?
I think there's another picture that depicts it much better.
The one on this?
That might be, no, this one, yes.
Okay, showing you defendant's 1337B. Can you point to that area you're talking about?
Yes, the area which has been previously circled with a blue marker is up in this corner. And in this whole corner area, there are many discolorations in this area which I'm pointing to now, particularly a very dark area here. And of course, these would appear to be parallel marks of some type along the corner of the tile, and just various discolorations here. These were not all made at the same time, and I cannot exclude the possibility that part of all this discoloration represents in some way an item of footwear, but all of these would not be in totality from an item of footwear. And some of these I think are from berries, stains, and other things.
All right, now do you have photographs taken that were taken on June the 13th, 1994, of that very same area shown in Dr. Lee's June 25th photograph?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you show us, first of all, on the overall where that tile would be?
The area that if I can use the enlargement K, because I think that's the easiest to see, the area that we're talking about is down in this area. If I can just have the defense exhibit oriented the same way.
It's 1337B.
Right. This area, if you're looking at the heel from the back, as if you were walking in that direction, looking at the defense exhibit, then to the lower left corner are the marks that we were talking about. And oriented in the same way on photograph K, this would be in the corner of the tile, which has the impression mark I, but is also very close to the impression mark H. So it's actually in the corner between H and I.
And for the record, the witness was referring to K on People's 598. All right, now, were there photographs close-ups of that location that were taken on June the 13th, blown up for the purpose of display to the jury?
Yes, ma'am, there were.
I'm going to ask you to actually put these up here, Mr. Boziak. Do we need to move one of these photographs?
Yeah, I think
There we go. How about this one?
this
All right, for the record, the witness has placed a magnetized color photograph, which we will label. You know, this one's already been labeled, I'm informed, right? I.
All right, 598I.
The witness has replaced I. And now the witness is placing on 598H. I'm going to ask you to restructure these photographs so they all fit on the board later, Your Honor, but for the time being, the witness has placed H and I on. Now, what is the area, what area is depicted in these two photographs, sir? If you can explain to the jury with reference to the overall photograph in J.
Okay, the two photographs that I just placed on the magnetic board represent, the black and white one represents the impression which was referred to as impression H in my prior testimony as photographed on June 13th by the LAPD, and it's now overlapping with a color photograph photographed on June 13th, 1994 by the LAPD of the impression which was marked I. And these correspond with the letters H and I, which are in photograph K on the same magnetic board.
Now, where is the area where Dr. Lee testified to the imprint in Defendant's 1337B, the photograph taken on June 25th? Where is that area in people's H and I?
Okay, that area, to orientate you to these impressions, the bloody heel mark in the defense exhibit corresponds with the bloody heel mark in the impression I in the color photograph on the magnetic board. And then looking in the corner of the tile where the discolorations and the parallel marks are, that area would be on the black and white photograph in the area next to the numeral 8 and bounded on the sides by the grout and the ruler in this corner.
Is it there, sir, on June the 13th?
The only possible remnant of anything on the June 13th photographs, or possible mark that might be the same as this discoloration, which is possibly from a berry or something natural,
And for the record, you're referring to a dark round spot that's to the left of the number 8?
Yes, to this discoloration in the corner. But there is no evidence of any of the other parallel line markings or other discolorations which I was previously asked about and to which Dr. Lee testified. None of those existed in a very good photograph taken on June 13th, 1994.
For the record, when the witness for the second time referred to this, he pointed to the defendant's 1337B and another dark round spot in that photograph. And if I may, I'd like to put up on this board a photograph labeled F that appears to be another print of the defendant's 1337B.
All right, Ms. Clark, would this be a good spot?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you.
All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our mid-morning recess. Remember all my admonitions to you. Mr. Wojciak, you may step down. We'll be in recess for 15. Thank you. I'd like that we've been rejoined by all the members of our jury panel. And Mr. Wojciak, would you resume the witness stand, please? Ms. Clark.
Thank you, Your Honor. All right, so directing your attention to People's 598, have we repositioned the photographs?
Yes.
All right, do they accurately reflect the manner in which they were detected on the walkway and the location specifically referred to in the June 25th photograph of Dr. Lee labeled on this chart as F?
Yes, they do.
And for the record now, Your Honor, the photographs that are on the board are labeled A, B, C, F, H, I, J, K. So there were duplicate photographs in D and E, and they've been withdrawn.
Thank you.
And G, Tim. All right, sir. Let me just ask you this. So look, the area in which Dr. Lee testified to the discovery of imprints on a June 25th photograph shown in F. Can you point out the area on the June 13th photograph labeled as H?
Yes, that would be this area next to the numeral 8 and between the two rulers in the corner of the tile.
Is the imprint shown on June 25th photograph of Dr. Lee shown on the June 13th photograph labeled H?
No, it is not.
Now let me ask you, sir, do shoe prints left in blood get darker over time?
Shoe prints that are the normal shoe prints we encounter, which are of the lighter variety. In other words, as you track blood on your shoes, let me go back. If you step in a quantity of blood, the first track will be fairly dark, and the next one will be lighter, and so forth until they disappear. So shoe prints are generally very thin layers of blood because of the pressure of the shoe with the person wearing it, and even if it's heavy, it's usually the excess blood is squeezed out to the sides, and so most of the tracks are very, very light. The only exception would be if you actually step in a pool of blood. With regard to those shoe prints, which I encounter daily and have for my entire time in the FBI laboratory, they become lighter with time. With regard to whole blood, or big globs of blood that are very thick, they tend to appear darker with time.
Now the shoe prints that, excuse me, strike that. The imprints identified by Dr. Lee in photograph F and some of the previous ones that we've referred to, and when I said F, I meant People's 598, were any of those imprints made in those globs of blood that you referred to?
No.
Then in the case of those imprints, sir,
Who's to strike no foundation?
Oh, well, collapse is such a amorphous term, but let's move on, Counsel.
can you tell us what you mean by globs, sir?
In an actual pool of blood, where there's so much blood that when you step in it, it would flow back and cover up that particular impression.
And do any of those imprints identified by Dr. Lee, such as the one in photograph F, have that appearance?
No, they do not.
In that case, sir, based on your experience, would such imprints as those identified by Dr. Lee become darker over time or lighter?
Foundation.
Vague as to which and no foundation.
Sustained.
Those imprints identified by Dr. Lee in 1337 on the board behind you, the three lower photographs. Okay, with the exception of the one that you have identified, the photograph to the far left, in which the imprints that Dr. Lee testified to, you have determined were trowel marks. Other than that, the other two imprints that Dr. Lee testified to in the photographs dated 6/25/94, do either of those have the appearance of having been made as a result of stepping in a pool of blood?
I'd like to answer those separately. First, the center photograph, which is the parallel marks in the corner that we've just been talking about, as well as the other discolorations, which, looking to that area on photograph H on the magnetized board, those areas just simply didn't exist. There was no impression there on June 13th, 1994. And therefore, whatever these marks are here now on June 25th, are not related to the crime. With regard to these parallel impressions, the very thin parallel lines, they may be a shoe impression, but there is no evidence of them in photographs J and K on the magnetized board, which depict that second, in the 10th row of tiles, the second tile, adjacent to K and H, and also in between H and I. They do not appear there in any of the general crime scene photographs, and I would believe that based on the fact they don't appear there, and they were not photographed at that time, I see no reason why they would have been there on June 13th.
Move to strike my foundation.
We'll
Then with respect to People's 598, sir, in photographs H, I, and F, do these constitute clear photographic proof that the imprint shown in the June 25th photograph of Dr. Lee, labeled F, was not there on June the 13th, 1994?
This is absolute proof that it did not exist on June 13th, 1994.
And would that tend to indicate then, sir, that it was deposited at some time after the murders occurred and after the murderer left the scene?
Whatever occurrence or occurrences caused these discolorations in this area and these lines would have had to have occurred after June 13th, 1994. And these are not trowel marks, these are other discolorations.
And sir, based on your analysis of all of the evidence, including Dr. Lee's photographs, is there any evidence that more than one set of bloody shoe prints were left at the scene at the time of the murders?
No, there's not.
And all those shoe prints you identified at Bundy, were they made by size 12 Bruno Magli shoes?
All of the bloody shoe impressions, which I previously testified to, were made by size 12 Bruno Magli designs, and there's no other shoe impressions that I examined or saw in any of the evidence that I've seen in this case that were there on June 13th, 1994.
And since your testimony, you've heard Dr. Lee's testimony in large part, correct?
Yes, I have.
And you have seen his exhibits.
Yes, I have.
Has anything you've seen or heard since your testimony in this case when you previously appeared that causes you to waver at all in your opinion that there was one set of shoe prints on June the 13th, 1994 at Bundy, all of which were size 12 Bruno Magli prints?
Nothing has changed my opinion, no.
And has anything you've seen or heard caused you to change your opinion that the defendant is included as a candidate for wearing those size 12 Bruno Magli shoes?
No.
Thank you, sir. I have nothing further.
All right, Mr. Wooden, would you take these items down? Unless, Mr. Scheck, you're going to start with these.
I'll start with these. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'll try. Mr. Bodziak, you testified here that you were familiar with the majority of Dr. Lee's testimony. You said that today.
Probably about 90 to 95%.
Well, yesterday, didn't you tell us that you were didn't read it?
I haven't read his testimony. I videotaped or saw on TV approximately 90 to 95% of his testimony.
Didn't you tell us yesterday that you had seen portions of it on news clips?
I said that I had seen the majority of it on tapes of his testimony, continuous tapes, and I had seen some other recordings and news clips of parts that I didn't see
Well,
on the original tapes.
yesterday, you said yesterday you saw the majority of it?
Yes.
Now, you feel confident that you fully reviewed and studied his testimony in a way that gives you confidence that you can criticize what he said.
I'm not here to criticize what Dr. Lee said, but to clarify it so it's not misleading, that the term imprints was not a shoe print in my opinion.
Well, first of all, Dr. Lee used the term imprint, correct?
That's correct.
And with respect to testifying as to a shoe print, the only full shoe print and pattern that he testified to was the one that had been labeled 1337A, correct?
Could I see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. That was his testimony, correct?
Yes, I believe he was questioned several times throughout his testimony to clarify whether what he referred to as imprints he could positively say were shoe prints, and he qualified his opinion that he could not positively say they were shoe prints, with the exception of that one that you're just referring to.
Well, he did that on direct.
Yes.
He was very clear about it, wasn't he?
I didn't perceive it as clear all of the time.
Well, do you recall the distinction that Dr. Lee made? Well, would it be misleading to come in here and try to
rebut testimony and statements that weren't even given?
Argumentative, sustained.
Well, you talked about misleading the jury and your concerns about it.
I was confused myself in watching his testimony whether he was referring to shoe prints when he used the term imprint on many occasions. If I were confused, I'm sure that other people could be misled in his explanation of certain things.
Well, throughout your examination of his direct testimony and the board's, were not everything labeled clearly as imprints, and throughout the course of his direct testimony, clear distinctions were made?
That was part of the problem, sir. If you say imprint, it includes fabric, ears, noses, shoes, fingerprints, everything that can actually press against an object. And if you use that term that way, as the flow of the questioning on both direct and cross of Dr. Lee went through, there were many occasions when I was not sure, as a footwear examiner, if he were referring to that as a shoe print or some other object that made contact and left that mark. And if I could continue, the term shoe print,
Move to strike is not responsive
No,
at this
he's
point.
finishing his answer, counsel.
the term shoe print or footwear impression, as we discussed yesterday in our meetings prior to my testimony, I thought was a much clearer term because it leaves no doubt as to what you're talking about. And if you're not sure if it's a shoe print and you call it an imprint, then it should be a possible footwear impression or something, and that would leave total clarity as to what the discussion was about.
Well, when Dr. Lee was talking about, he talked about nose prints, ear prints, and fabric prints, did he not?
Yes.
Now, just to make this distinction clear, Dr. Lee made a distinction between the term imprint and impression.
And yes, he did.
An imprint he called a two-dimensional marking, and an impression three-dimensional.
That's correct.
You happen to use the term impression to refer to both.
That's correct.
Do you see any scientific problem in making that distinction?
No. As I previously stated, around the world, and I think I mentioned yesterday, the British use the term mark in lieu of what Dr. Lee is saying he uses imprint. And I recognize that when I read their literature and go to their meetings, that they're talking about a two-dimensional shoe print or a fingerprint, and they use the term depressed mark or impression if they're talking about three-dimensional. I found when talking, particularly in teaching classes, if you try to restrict yourself always to talking about mark, print, depressed mark, depression or impression for different things, a lot of times you were talking about all of them, and other times you were talking about part of them, and it became very confusing. So I just like to use the term footwear impression myself to cover everything. I think it tells the people you're talking about footwear impressions, either two-dimensional or three-dimensional.
Well, the answer to my question then, that you see no scientific problem in making the distinction between imprint and impression, the answer to that is yes.
I have no problem with him, by his choice, making that distinction.
Right. Now, you have testified here that you think there is something misleading about communicating that an imprint cannot be eliminated as a full shoe print pattern. Is that your testimony?
Or
I don't understand the question the way you're asking. Can you
Okay.
please rephrase it?
Do you think that it is fair for an expert to testify that an imprint cannot be eliminated as coming from a shoe and cannot be positively associated either?
If they state it that way, just as you have, no.
All right, and didn't Dr. Lee, in the course of his testimony about imprints, indicate, as to various different imprints, that some of them, one of them, he could say was a shoe print, and others he said he could not eliminate as having come from a shoe?
At times he did do that, yes.
And in fact, you offered very similar testimony, almost precisely the same kind of testimony, in talking about certain imprints and impressions in this case, did you not?
There were shoe prints I talked about today, as well as other marks which were not shoe prints, yes.
When you were talking about the Bronco carpet fiber, you reached the opinion that you couldn't eliminate it, you couldn't possibly associate it with the Bruno Magli.
That's correct.
And you went on to answer a question where you were asked to take a rubber shoe and describe for us how it is possibly consistent with the Bruno Magli, and you then began playing with the overlays and lining things up.
I was asked that specific question, and that was my answer, yes.
And you went on to talk about possibilities, even though, in your opinion, you could not either eliminate or positively associate.
That's correct.
Now, and there was nothing misleading about that, was there?
I hope not.
Okay. Now, you talked about envelope.
All right, this is 1349.
Delusa. Now, you said these are, do you recognize these as three different pictures of the envelope?
May I step down?
Yes, please.
Yes, I do.
And did you see Dr. Lee testify about this
Yes, I did.
with reference to this board?
Yes.
Now, yesterday you gave testimony about a flash bounce, correct?
Yes.
Now, in terms of identifying the differences between the picture in the middle, which you recognize to be the first picture taken of the envelope, do you not?
I don't know what order they were taken in.
Well, you remember that there was a picture taken with Mark Furman pointing at the Bundy glove, and then close-ups were made of the envelope as it was at that position at that time.
I don't know what sequence we're in. I know which photographs you're talking about. I just don't know what sequence they were.
Well, do you recall the testimony that the sequence was the middle picture was the envelope from the Furman photograph, and the one to the left was a subsequent photograph taken at the crime scene with the evidence marker, as you can see in the top here.
I see they're different photographs. Again, I don't remember the exact sequence of it.
Now, in regard to this board, do you think that a flash bounce moved the hair, fiber, and trace that you see in the middle picture that we now see in the left-hand picture?
Objection, argument.
This is never phrase question.
All right, you see that there's hair and fiber, the trace evidence in the middle picture.
And objections to be on the scope then.
Overruled.
You see that?
Yes.
Do you see it in the left-hand picture?
You point specifically to what you're referring to?
Yes. Hair, fiber, and trace at the top of the envelope here. Do you see it in this picture here?
You're referring to all of this material which appears black
Yes.
on the center envelope. And over here, no,
Yes.
I do not see it.
All right. And could flash bounce be responsible for the differences in these two photographs with respect to the hair and trace?
I would not.
Objection to characterization of the trace matter.
Overruled.
I would not attribute flash bounce to eliminating all of this. There may be differences in exposures and lighting that would account for minor things, but not for a large quantity of material.
So flash bounce couldn't have moved that material off the envelope, in your opinion.
That's correct.
And you are aware of testimony in this case that these two pictures represent the envelope being moved from one place to the other.
I don't recall that particular testimony, no.
You don't recall Dr. Lee putting up boards and showing the movement of the envelope from one place to the other?
Objection to be on the scope irrelevant.
Overruled.
I was listening to his testimony as it pertained to footwear impressions.
So your answer to that is no.
I don't recall that exact statement.
All right. But you would agree that flash bounce can't move an envelope from one place to another.
Of course not.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harris.
Now, in terms of including something as possibly coming from a shoe print and excluding something as possibly coming from a shoe print, would it be fair to say that before you can make a definitive exclusion, you have to have an adequate amount of information?
Are we talking about shoe print comparisons with known shoes, or just looking at a photo? Could you be more specific, sir?
Sure. Looking at an imprint made in blood, are you with me?
A shoe imprint
And just an imprint,
of anything?
an imprint pattern made in blood,
Yes.
are you with me?
Yes.
All right. Before one can conclude that it could not have been left by a shoe, eliminating that possibility definitively, is it necessary to have an adequate factual basis to do so?
You would need to have an imprint which had sufficient detail so that you could recognize the characteristics in that, what you're calling an imprint, whether it be from fabric or shoes or other material. You would have to have that sufficient detail and clarity to make a determination as to whether you, based on your experience and expertise in that area, could say it was a fabric or a shoe or something, and there may be a point in time where you have insufficient detail to make any determination.
And would it be fair to say that the imprint itself is a scientific fact? It's there.
That is vague.
Are you familiar? I'm sorry. Are you familiar with the distinction Dr. Lee made between scientific fact and interpretation?
I'm very familiar with what he said and also what I practice by.
Okay. But do you recall his distinction between scientific fact and interpretation?
It's hard sometimes to understand the way when he words things exactly. I believe he was saying the same thing I believe in, that a scientific fact is in fact something that you can prove beyond any doubt at all, at least in your opinion. This notebook is sitting on his desk. That's a scientific fact. The interpretation in this case would be very easy, and anybody that looked at it would agree in that interpretation that there is a notebook in front of me on this desk. If you had something that was less obvious, then interpretation becomes a more important factor, and you must be fair in that interpretation, and you must always only refer to something that you can see as clearly as this book on the table before you make a determination in the case of an imprint, whether or what it was.
Right. So you would say that the imprint or the physical object would be a scientific fact, and then there's interpretation of scientific fact based on lots of different factors and other observations a scientist can make.
Well, if you're referring to the imprints that are you referring to the imprints that Dr. Lee pointed to in his testimony?
Well, I'm trying to define some terms with you at the beginning. I'm just asking you very simply, Mr. Bodziak, you heard Dr. Lee testify that there is a distinction between scientific facts and interpretation.
Right.
You concur that that is
Right.
a recognized distinction.
Absolutely.
All right. And that different experts can have different interpretations of scientific facts.
If they're properly trained and they limit their conclusions to only what they can see with absolute certainty, they should reach the same opinion.
And the available information to them.
As I just stated, if there's sufficient information in detail to make their determination, they should reach the same conclusion.
Okay. And do you have, you're aware of Dr. Lee's reputation in the forensic community?
As far as I know, he holds a fine reputation.
And on scientific facts, experts can differ in their interpretations.
If that expert is adequately trained and experienced in that area and the material, the information which they're basing their opinion on is clear, they should not differ.
Okay.
They do in real life, but they should not.
Okay. Now, are you telling us that you think Dr. Lee is not adequately trained in the area of imprints and footwear impressions?
I have only some information regarding his training in that area, and I would believe that it's far less than mine. I've never had the opportunity to check any casework of his. I know he's checked cases of mine, and I know of no instance in which he's disagreed, but I don't have any personal knowledge firsthand of his work in shoe print analysis.
Well, have you read his books?
No, I have not.
So, without reading his books and without having reviewed his cases, you feel confident that you can say that his knowledge of this area of imprints and footwear impressions is inadequate?
Overruled. Overruled.
The only recent books that I'm aware of that were edited, and I don't believe the areas within regarding footwear impressions were written by Dr. Lee, but they were edited by him, were in fact prepared in large by, to the best of my knowledge, by Mr. Kenneth Zersey, who is the senior footwear impression examiner at Connecticut, and who has taken my class and received training from me in that area. I have looked in his book to skim over it, and it seemed very, very general, and basically very small part of what I teach and have taught to Mr. Zersey and other people throughout the years.
All right, would you spell Xerxes for us?
Zercie.
I thought you just told us that you hadn't read Dr. Lee's books.
I've skimmed over it. I thought it was very, very general.
Which books?
There were a series of, I don't know if they're laboratory manuals from that someone showed to me once, and I briefly skimmed through them, and then there was a book that was written in 1994, and I think it was published in the Republic of China, that was very, very general with regard to shoe impressions.
Well, you feel that you are sufficiently familiar with his work in this, all his work in this area and all he's written?
I believe he's been the director of a laboratory for a considerable number of years, and that he doesn't conduct on a normal basis in that laboratory bench-type examinations of shoe impressions, but rather directs the laboratory. He may oversee it, and he may occasionally take an interest in it, but I don't think he gets out casework And I don't really, and as I previously stated, I don't have a lot of personal knowledge, why it's hard for me to answer your question.
Well,
But that's, you're asking me to answer you, and I'm trying to give you the best, information that I can on what I do or don't know about Dr. Lee.
wait a second. Mr. Bodziak, you just told us that you don't have any direct personal knowledge or about what Dr. Lee does with respect to casework or what he's published in these areas, yet you're telling us that you think that he doesn't do much bench laboratory comparisons of imprints and shoe imprints. Didn't you just say that?
Sustained.
Well, didn't you just say that you think that Dr. Lee doesn't do much comparison of imprints and shoe imprints at crime scenes at the laboratory bench?
Let me make it perfectly clear. I thought I did. He is the director of a laboratory.
Yes.
He attends many, many meetings, as he testified to. He's very active in many, many aspects of forensic science from a management level. He has people under him that I have trained who told me they are the senior footwear examiner, meaning they do the footwear casework. I don't know personally what amount of casework Dr. Lee does. The facts I've just stated are what I know.
Well, in terms of, you familiar with his testimony in this case?
Yes, I am.
And are you familiar with the fact that Dr. Lee testified that he goes to crime scenes on a regular basis,
Yes.
and that he looks at imprints and footwear impressions,
Yes.
and that he goes back to the lab and analyzes them,
Yes.
and cited many, many cases,
Overruled.
and cites many, many cases where he actually went out and did that, and continues to do that?
Overruled.
I believe he stated in general cases he's worked on. I don't know if he referred specifically to footwear impressions in what you would call many, many cases.
Well, isn't it true, withdrawn, the form, are you aware of Dr. Lee's reputation in the community as someone who actually goes out to crime scenes and examines evidence and comes into court and testifies about it, as opposed to being a manager that oversees?
I've stated to you the full extent of my knowledge of Dr. Lee's work.
And by your own admission, it's limited.
It is.
It is limited, isn't it?
Overruled.
It's limited, yes, but
Thank
it's what I know.
Now, let's talk about the parallel line imprints on the envelope and the eyeglasses. You have said that you gave us a number of reasons that you thought that you could definitively eliminate that as having come from a shoe.
That's correct.
And I believe the first reason that you talked about is that on the imprint of the envelope, you detected non-printing areas around the imprint itself.
The areas around it,
Withdrawn. Now, you would agree, and I think we had some brief discussions before you came in here and testified.
that's correct.
Right? Not very lengthy ones. No more than a half hour.
I think it was longer than that, but
Close.
hour and a half.
An hour and a half total?
Yeah.
All right. And you would agree, would you not, that if blood gets onto a portion of the sole of a shoe, that it would leave an imprint without a border,
And I testified to that yesterday.
Yes.
Yes.
and it would leave a partial imprint with non-printing area around it.
That's correct.
Now, did you not testify on direct examination that the only possible way that this could have happened with respect to the parallel line imprint on the envelope is if the imprint occurred at the very onset of the crime? Were those your words?
I was trying to make a case for that happening, and it would be likely that if that kind of occurrence did in fact happen, it would be before the whole walkway was covered with blood.
Well, did you not say the only possible way that could happen is if it was at the very outset of the crime, the first drops of blood that was spilled, where one of those drops may have fallen to the ground, whatever contact that blood at that point had was limited in size because there is only one drop in that area and then it's transferred to the paper?
That sounds like what I said, yes.
And you were asked questions by Ms. Clark that the basis for your opinion...
That's the transcript from yesterday, Counsel. You got real time. Proceed.
Now, and you gave this opinion after a discussion of the volumes of photographs that you had looked at the crime scene, right?
And the examination of the actual envelope itself, yes.
Okay. Now,
Mr. Scheck.
This is 1346.
Thank you.
Did you review Dr. Lee's testimony with respect to this board?
Can I come down?
Please do.
I don't believe I saw this particular board, no.
And you didn't review his testimony with respect to this board?
Mr. Scheck, do we have any remains on this?
No.
All right.
I'm sorry.
And you didn't review his testimony with respect to this?
I don't recall him talking about this, these blood marks on the envelope, no.
All right. Now, you said that the parallel line imprint could have been made without a border and without a non-printing area around it if that came from some blood drops that were shed at the onset of the struggles.
That's one possibility, yes.
But you were dubious about that because there was a whole pool of blood that you saw at the crime scene.
That's one of the reasons that I don't think it's a shoe print.
Now, do you recall Dr. Lee's testimony that the parallel line imprint, because of the bloodstain patterns, had to be left first, and there were other blood imprints over it later, thereby indicating that there could be some, you could time the deposits by way of an interpretation of the bloodstains?
I don't recall that testimony.
You don't?
No. I
And
don't recall this board. I
You
must have
don't?
missed that part.
You must have missed
Yes.
Must have missed it. And, well, do you think that before you come in and testify about when you think bloodstains were deposited, it would have been useful to study Dr. Lee's testimony with respect to the bloodstain evidence?
Objections, argumentative, FBI still.
Sustained. It's argumentative.
Do you think that bloodstain analysis in terms of spatter and the times of deposit has some significance in terms of figuring out when imprints were made?
Are you referring to shoe imprints, sir?
Well, I'm referring to bloodstains generally.
Well, I'm not here to testify about bloodstains, but shoe prints.
I understand, but these are imprints made in blood, aren't they, that we're talking about?
Are we talking about shoe prints or fabric impressions or other markings in blood?
Isn't the discussion here about imprints?
One of the reasons that I'm here is to dispel this mysterious word imprint as including anything that you want it to be and refer specifically to shoe prints, which is what I examined.
But as a scientific fact, an imprint is an imprint.
No, it's not a scientific fact that an imprint is an imprint. It can be an imprint of a number of objects we've talked about, and if you would be
I'd be very
referring
specific for you.
specific to the
Sure.
shoe.
Objection, counsel's interrupting the
Yes.
witness.
Let him finish his answer.
Can the witness please
I thought
finish
you
his answer?
hadn't finished, sir.
I just would like to talk specifically about shoe prints or know in your questions if you're asking about shoe prints or fabric impressions or specifically what you're asking about.
Well, don't you believe that it is important to consider all the evidence in reaching an interpretation of an imprint found at a crime scene?
In general, yes.
And wasn't one of the reasons that you were ruling out the parallel line imprints as could have possibly coming from a shoe was the lack of a border and the non-printing area around it?
That is one of several reasons why, yes.
Well,
Just
two, actually.
Two of several reasons.
And before you came and testified, yesterday you gave us a board that you didn't use listing your reasons for eliminating the parallel line imprint patterns as being possibly coming from a shoe. You recall that?
I didn't prepare those boards, and when I reviewed them upon arriving in Los Angeles, I did not think they could explain it as well as I could just talking, so I chose not to use them.
But in those boards, there were 4 different reasons that you stated.
I believe there were 4 boards.
Objection, irrelevant.
Overruled.
Now, if there were evidence based on bloodstain interpretation that the parallel line imprint on the envelope happened before the other bloodstains on the envelope, would you not agree that that was scientific facts to support the position that that imprint was left before a greater amount of bloodshed occurred at the scene?
I totally concur that that imprint was left at that point, but by fabric or another object, not a shoe.
Move to strike not responsive. My question, sir, is that if through the, you understand that Dr. Lee testified that the parallel line imprint pattern was then covered over with a greater amount of blood from another imprinting source?
Yes, I've examined the envelope. I'm aware of what you're talking about.
All right. And that, would you concur, looking at the middle photograph labeled bloodstain pattern number 2, that in the upper right-hand corner of that is the parallel line imprint that we're talking about?
Yeah, I think there's a much better photograph
Yes,
to
I
discuss
understand.
it. This is very hard to discuss it on because you can't see the parallel lines very well, and it's way out of scale. But yes, I know what you're talking about.
Well, there are other photographs of this,
Yes.
correct?
Yes, there are.
And this particular board, do you know, was the one where the discussion of when things were deposited occurred in Dr. Lee's testimony?
I previously stated I did not
Right.
see that portion.
Didn't follow this.
But I know what you're talking about
Right.
with regard to the imprint or the small mark, which he referred to as an imprint, with the wavy lines.
Okay, now, would you not agree that this depiction of the order of deposits of blood supports the position that the parallel line imprint on the envelope occurred earlier in the struggle rather than later when there was more bloodshed?
Are you asking that in the context of how it would influence my determination regarding whether or not that was a shoe print?
I'm asking you just to concede that that is a fact that relates to when that imprint was made, when the blood deposits occurred.
In my testimony yesterday, I conceded there was hypothetical ways which could have in fact occurred, that small print could have been put on there in a way, and I gave one example, the onset of the crime, with before the other blood, or and that would be the reason that it would be a small isolated print, which I think is what you're asking, if I could continue. That in no way influences my whole interpretation of it as to whether or not it's a shoe print.
Well, wait. Please, if you can, I'll try to make my questions as clear as possible, and maybe you could.
Objection, Your Honor. You get it totally right.
Overruled.
Now, all I'm asking you is that you said yesterday you were answering in response to hypotheticals, right?
I gave a hypothetical of how that impression could occur without surrounding features in an island configuration.
Right.
At that size.
Right.
Yes.
And what you were saying is, if it occurred earlier in the struggle where there were just a few blood drops that might have gotten on the sole of a shoe, you would get an imprint without non-printing area around it and without a border, right?
I never mentioned anything about blood drops on a shoe in this case, but in the hypothetical
Yes.
context, it said it could be a drop of blood on any object, hypothetically including a shoe, and that is how you could get the isolated island impression.
Right. And that was on direct. You offered that, right?
Not as a shoe in this case, but as a hypothetical
Right.
event, yes.
Yes. And you said that would be the only possible way it could happen, right?
That was one way in which it could happen.
Well, but you were unaware of this board and testimony that Dr. Lee gave supporting his contention that that imprint
Objection asked and answered.
Overruled.
occurred
Argumentative, Your Honor.
earlier
Overruled.
in the struggle before subsequent deposits of blood were on the envelope.
Asked and answered.
Overruled.
The sequence of the events with regard to the blood deposition on the envelope has no influence on my interpretation of those parallel lines. Whether they came before or after would have no bearing on my overall interpretation and opinion that that is not a shoe print.
Would it have bearing on at least two of the factors that you raised, the lack of a border and the lack of non-printing area around it?
No, because if we had a picture of the entire envelope here, which I'd like to use to explain if I could in my answer. Do we have one of the entire envelope? Because this doesn't show what I'd like to point to in my answer.
What kind of picture would you
A picture of the entire envelope in any size.
All right, this is 1349.
Yes, Your Honor.
How did my camera get on? It was off. I'm listening on
I
my phone.
can answer your question. If you look at the envelope, there are many areas around this parallel pattern which don't have a continuation of that pattern. Some of them are obstructed by additional blood, and you are stating that that came afterwards, and that wouldn't have any bearing on my exam. There are other areas which still do not contain blood, which still are isolated, and for instance, over here, there's no continuation of that pattern. There's
Thank you,
no border
RW.
like
Thank you,
might get on
thank
a
you.
shoe. So there's, on this side, there's very little blood, almost no blood right here on the corner of the envelope, yet there's no continuation of the pattern. Over here, of course, it's obstructed by other blood stains. This in no way, what you're stating to Dr. Lee's testimony, has any influence, in my opinion, regarding whether this is a shoe print or not.
Well, I really don't want to do repetitive about this, but are you conceding that from the deposition of the blood, that the other blood that you say was obstructing the pattern came after.
I'm not rendering an opinion whether it came before or after. I'm stating that with regard to the examination of these parallel lines and their features, which are dissimilar, and in the entire looking at this examination, dissimilar to a footwear impression, have no bearing on my opinion.
Well, so in other words, even if, as you said on direct examination yesterday, this imprint was made at the onset of the struggle, and it came from an early blood drop, and thereby accounted for the fact that there's no border and no impression, nothing in the non-printing area around it, that wouldn't affect your opinion.
Objection asked and answered.
What I'm examining is the characteristics of this imprint or impression, whatever made it. I'll use a general term, impression, whether it's fabric or shoes or whatever. I'm saying that my examination of that is totally independent of the other blood around it, which obviously is not related to it, and has no bearing whether that other blood came before or after on my opinion with regard to this impression.
So you're looking at one factor and not considering the rest.
When you look at a shoe impression, you don't consider anything else. You're looking at the shoe impression.
Okay. Now, I think even in your own report, you indicate that you observe creases and folds in this area of the envelope.
Well, there's obviously normal, that this envelope has been creased and folded or crumpled in many places.
But I'm referring particularly to the area of the parallel line imprint. It was an area that was creased and folded.
Yeah, right here, along here, here. This mark along here was actually a result of the eyeglass curvature inside the envelope. There's just a number of those features that you're describing along the envelope, yes.
And the envelope was not on a flat surface, was it?
I don't know if when this mark was made it was or not, but it has no influence on the examination of these characteristics.
Well, do you know if the receiving surface that the envelope was on was flat?
The receiving surface could have been as varied as a drop of blood on the envelope and Ron Goldman's jeans making contact and making that print. It could be a drop on his jeans and him with the envelope in his hand coming down and responding to that and putting this mark on it. There's no way to look at this and tell how that happened. That is why you rely on your examination of the physical features here, and you're not influenced by other factors that you don't know for certain what occurred. I'm looking at the physical characteristics of this impression or imprint based on...
Nan, listen, this is important. Whatever you do, don't make Josh laugh.
those features. In my opinion, for the reasons I stated yesterday, it is not a shoe print.
Mr. Bodziak, did you hear Agent Diedrich testify?
Yes, I did.
Did you hear Agent Diedrich say that he thought it was unlikely that...
Don't even try to say I didn't mute, because I didn't. I did not miss a mute. My camera came on while I was eating. That has absolutely nothing to do with muting, Bobby. Don't try to get me a text message from Josh. I don't need no text message. It's been a long time since I got a text message.
Could have been made by the envelope coming into contact with Ron Goldman's jeans in the fashion that you just described and then falling to the ground.
I believe he stated there had to be some pressure involved of some sort. It couldn't fall through the air and just touch his jeans and fall off, but it could, with pressure, make contact with his jeans.
You don't recall Agent Diedrich saying that he thought the most likely and reasonable interpretation of how that imprint occurred is that the envelope was flat on the ground and something, or some object imprinted on it?
Sustained.
You recall his testimony about that?
Yes.
I recall his testimony that there had to be pressure, and common sense would dictate that the envelope being on the ground would be a more likely scenario than what I described with grabbing your leg where there might be a drop of blood.
He did say that, didn't he?
Did say what?
He did say that it was his opinion that both the envelope and the piece of paper being on the ground was the most likely and reasonable way that the envelope and the paper would be when the imprint was made. Didn't he say that?
I think his most definitive explanation was that you had to have pressure between the envelope and the blood. It could not just be something that bounced off of it or grazed it. There had to be pressure. I don't think he rendered an opinion as to exactly what happened.
You sure?
I know he did.
You're sure he didn't say that the most reasonable and likely way was it on the ground?
Counsel, we're arguing now.
Okay.
The jury heard the testimony.
And we have transcripts that we can
The
get.
jury heard the testimony.
Now, in terms of, as a general proposition, when a shoe makes contact with a surface that is not flat or uneven surfaces, it can leave an imprint made in blood of part of the shoe and not the borders, for example, that wouldn't come in contact with it.
Could you give a specific example of what you're stating?
Well,
I
I'm
believe I know what you are, but could you?
Well, uneven surfaces will cause contact with only parts of the shoe.
Such as if you stepped on a golf ball.
Well, you stepped on a curved tile.
On a curved tile?
Curved tile.
On the very edge of it?
Yes.
Yeah, that's possible.
This envelope was found near the edge of a curved tile, right?
That's where it was photographed. I don't know where it was when the impression was put on it.
In fact, when you made your notes, you were investigating the possibility that this envelope had been turned over. There was blood on the corner of the envelope.
Guys, is Marsha falling asleep? Watch Marsha Clark. Are you ready?
Made your notes, you were investigating the possibility that this envelope had been turned over. There was
She's
blood
falling asleep.
on the
She really
corner
is.
of the envelope, and that somebody or something stepped on it, and the imprint came from what you call trolley marks on the edge of the tile.
Not exactly.
Well,
May I explain?
sure.
Okay, in my notes, when I examined this envelope, the first time I examined it at the Los Angeles Police Department lab, I observed these marks, and I was interested in what could have accounted for them, and so I made some notes. And the time I had to examine this and photograph it was limited. I made some notes, possibly trolley marks on the concrete, because I had some photographs which showed blood-marked areas of the tile and various striations, again, from these finishing marks that whoever finished the concrete put on there. So I noted possible trowel marks. I also noted that in looking at Ron Goldman's Pataga boots, that there was a certain cleat formation designed to those boots. And I was looking at some of the different shapes of the blood deposited here, and I was trying in my mind to see if those boots may have either directly or with the envelope turned over on a blood-soaked walkway and then set
Speaking of Shaq, where's Josh?
on the back of it and get flipped over again, have caused, or if I could associate those boots with any of these marks. Upon final examination of the photographs, the Pataga boots, and all of the other things I had, I was never able to fully explain this, and subsequently referred it to Douglas Diedrich because it was not a shoe impression with parallel lines. And with regard to these, I was never able to associate it definitely with Ron Goldman's Pataga boots or any other item of footwear.
All right, so you were investigating, at first in your reports, you indicated more than one shoe impressions on this envelope.
Possibly what I had just described from Ron Goldman's Pataga boots.
And would that scenario not include the fact that you thought that the envelope might have been on the edge of the tile, and that's how you got the trawling marks?
At that point, when I made those notes, I wasn't eliminating anything. I was making exactly what notes are, notes, to refer to later and to follow up with additional examination, which I did, to which I've testified.
So the answer to my question is yes.
Could you restate your question so I'm sure what it
That is part of your scenario, that possibility you were pursuing, that you thought that the envelope might have been on the curved edge of the tile.
No, I made no reference of a curved edge of the tile, simply the trowel mark.
Trolley marks, we could have been on the curved edge of the
It could
tile.
have been anywhere on the tile.
Now, with respect to the piece of paper, you have indicated that you saw the parallel line imprint impressions on that piece of paper.
You're referring now to the triangular piece of paper?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, and that piece of paper was not recovered for examination.
No, I never saw the original piece of paper.
And maybe if we could bring that up here just for a second. Now, did you recall parts of Dr. Lee's testimony with respect to the bloodstain patterns and the orders of deposit on this piece of paper?
My memory just recollects that he was referring to wavy lines that he referred to as imprints, and that he could not state definitively that they were made by shoes.
And so you did not...
Excuse me, I'm sorry, counsel. You're referring to a new exhibit for the record, please?
I'm sorry, this is 1338A.
Thank you.
And
Excuse
you
me,
did
counsel.
not...
Are you close?
Close to what?
You know what?
Finishing? No, I'm sorry.
All right, finish this line of questioning.
Sure. And in terms of, so you did not focus on his testimony as to the order of deposit of blood on the piece of paper?
No.
All right? And would it make a difference to you that Dr. Lee indicated, from the best that could be said, looking at the photograph, that it appeared that the parallel line imprints were first and there was other blood covering them based on the blood-stain pattern?
Again, as for reasons I stated before, if he said that, it would have no influence on my interpretation of the portions of the wavy lines that you could see that was the imprint.
But it would go towards at least two of the reasons that you gave us, the absence of a border and the absence of non-printing area around the imprint. It would be relevant to that, wouldn't it?
Well, the detail in this particular impression is a lot less than the detail of the envelope at which we had the original item. And the area that it covers and the adjacent areas don't have a border, but as far as it being an island, I don't think you could definitively rule where it began or ended on this photograph.
Well, I simply was asking you whether or not the order of deposit has some relevance in terms of at least two factors, the border and the absence of a non-printing area. Does it have relevance to that?
The only relevance, the answer is no, because the only relevance is what remains there. What remains there is what an examiner can examine, not what they want to hypothesize or say was there and is no longer there.
Well, is the bloodstain pattern visible on that envelope?
The probably 2/3 of, you mean the triangular piece of paper?
Yes, on this, I'm sorry. On this triangular piece of paper, do you see bloodstain patterns?
Well, there's a lot of blood on it. Whether or not that blood was wicked up because it was lying in blood, or whether blood fell on it and was wicked or absorbed into it, or whether it's a result of contact with an object at all of these other points, or if it's actually blood spatter flying through the air and striking it. That's not my area of expertise. I'm comparing the footwear impression.
Well, I understand that what you're basically telling us is that you feel you don't have an area of expertise in blood stain interpretation.
With regard to shoe imprints,
Oh,
with regard to shoe imprints, I have a very good base of experience and expertise in that area.
But you're saying that you'll look at the imprint, but as far as the rest of the stains are concerned, that's not your area.
You cannot reconstruct, well, let me say this. All of these stains, which are not part of the wavy lines, have no bearing on my examination.
Just one more question then. Do you recall Dr. Lee offering any testimony about the effect of the blood surrounding this parallel line pattern and its obscuring borders?
Yes, and I can see that. I can see where there are wavy lines that blood has either before or after come over it and partially obscured it.
So you would agree then with Dr. Lee that because of the subsequent deposit that obscures some of the area with the wavy lines, that could obscure some pattern of a border?
It definitely does obscure part of the impression, yes.
Okay.
There's other areas where there is no blood stains, which the wavy lines run into.
all right. All right, Mr. Scheck, would you take this item down, please? All right, thank you, Mr. Harris. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our recess for the morning session. Please remember all my admonitions to you. Don't discuss the case amongst yourselves. Don't form any opinions about the case. Don't conduct any deliberations until the matter has been submitted to you. Don't allow anybody to communicate with you with regard to the case. I hope you have a enjoyable weekend this weekend. Also, I wanted to compliment you on your continuing level of attention. I can tell by the expression on your faces every day that you're all tired, almost as tired as I am. But I know you're hanging in there because I've noticed that when certain items have come up that obviously you're very attentive as to which item of evidence is which, and I've seen you react to things that indicate to me that you're clearly as much on top of this as some of the lawyers, and maybe more so than me, as far as the numbering of the exhibits, and I know you're paying attention. I know it's tough, but hang in there. We're almost there. All right? Have a good weekend. We'll see you on Monday. Mr. Bodziak, unfortunately, Monday, 9 o'clock. All right. We're in recess.
And
All right, back on the...
we shall recess. Thank you guys for coming out today. I really appreciate it. Oh. There we go. I hope that you guys have a great Thursday. And I shall see you all in the morning. Behave. Be good. I'll see you soon. Bye, guys. Thank you.